In a daring social experiment, 5 men and 5 women were dropped into a remote wilderness, each group confined to one side of the forest. With only a few basic survival supplies and $500,000 on the line, the rules were simple: survive longer than the other group without crossing into their territory. From the beginning, both teams faced harsh conditions and had to strategize not only to endure but also to maximize their chances of winning the grand prize. The women quickly organized, finding a potential water source and planning their shelter. They showed early signs of collaboration, discussing long-term sustainability and even strategizing about self-elimination to stretch their limited rations. Meanwhile, the men were confident but disorganized. They dove into building a makeshift shelter and underestimated the difficulty of finding clean water, forcing them to trek miles through swamps. Supplies were limited, and the psychological stress began to take its toll. The women started planning early, recognizing that 5 people couldn't survive on their food supply for 3 weeks. They identified 2 team members, Fedra and Julia, as the strongest, and encouraged others to bow out for the good of the team. Hannah was the first to voluntarily leave, quietly evacuated in a truck. The men, in contrast, had no real food strategy. Tensions rose as 2 members took on most of the labor, while others, particularly Josh, were accused of being lazy and performing for the cameras. Arguments grew more intense by the day, causing rifts within the group. Despite the pressure, none had yet chosen to leave, but their emotional state was beginning to fray. By day 10, a new twist was introduced, a challenge between elected leaders from each team. Fedra represented the women, while Killer P stepped up for the men. The challenge involved archery, with a bag of food as the reward. Killer P missed his shot, but Fedra hit the target perfectly, winning perishable rations for her team and dealing a major blow to the men's morale. Following the loss, Cam from the men's team struggled with exhaustion and mental fatigue. Despite support from his teammate Sammy, Cam ultimately tapped out. On the same day, the women lost another member, H, to a planned exit, keeping their strategy of voluntary elimination intact to ensure more food for fewer survivors. Each side now had 3 players. The following days brought intense rainstorms that tested both shelters. While the women's well-constructed setup provided relative comfort, the men's poorly built structure leaked and left them drenched. The physical toll was too much for Josh, who had already been struggling. He made the call to leave, further weakening the boys' position. With just 2 men and 1 woman left, a second challenge was announced. Julia represented the women but took an offer to eliminate herself in exchange for a luxury tent. Now alone, Fedra set up her tent and braced for the final stretch. Meanwhile, TJ from the men's camp secretly observed Julia's self-elimination and confirmed Fedra was the only one left, information that dramatically shifted their strategy. This discovery, however, created conflict. TJ regretted not taking the tent himself, and Patrick questioned whether the lack of shelter would be their downfall. Despite their disagreement, the 2 men focused on their bond and the idea that camaraderie might be their edge. They bet that being a duo would give them a social and strategic advantage over Fedra's solo effort. As the challenge reached its final days, Fedra remained strong and resourceful, managing her food supply and thriving in her tent. The men, battered and uncertain, clung to hope in their alliance. The battle for the $500,000 became a true test of endurance, strategy, and resilience. In this ultimate survival showdown, only time would reveal whether unity or independence would prevail. The boys' camp was thriving in the wilderness. TJ and Patrick had successfully adapted, hunting crawdads and even catching a snapping turtle. Their survival skills were improving, and the bond between them was getting stronger. Meanwhile, over at the girls' camp, Fedra was struggling emotionally with the intense isolation. She spoke openly about missing human contact, even something as small as a high five, and began talking to herself just to cope with the loneliness. As day 30 approached, a new challenge was introduced. Each contestant could choose to either see their own family or let their entire camp see theirs. Both Patrick and Fedra chose themselves, reuniting with their loved ones in emotional scenes. For Fedra, seeing her son made her long to return home even more. For Patrick, the visit reignited his motivation to push forward and win for his family, though it also sparked some deeper reflection on his limits. That night, a bear crept into the boys' camp. The frightening encounter made Patrick reconsider his position in the competition. Realizing he was out of his element and not cut out for wilderness living, he decided to leave voluntarily. He handed over all remaining rations to TJ, trusting him to carry the team to victory. This left both camps with a single contestant, TJ for the boys, and Fedra for the girls. As the days passed, TJ focused on hunting to make up for the lack of food, while Fedra had a different approach, collecting animals as pets and conserving the abundant rations she had saved. She was thriving in solitude now, mentally strong and resourceful. Both contestants were clearly committed to winning, and their differing strategies set the stage for an intense 1v1 standoff. On day 40, another challenge arrived. They were given the chance to claim survival items, but only if the other person didn't choose the same one. If they both picked it, no one got it. The first item was a fishing rod, both chose it and lost it. However, they started compromising on smaller items, like dude wipes. This challenge tested their trust, strategy, and communication, revealing rising tension between them, especially when Fedra used TJ's child as emotional leverage, upsetting him. Day 50 brought a new surprise. Both contestants received Feastables chocolate, but hidden in one of the bars was a secret message promising 3 days of food. Fedra found her message early, silently claimed the food, and said nothing. Days later, TJ found his and raced for the food, only to find it was already gone. It was a crushing blow to his morale, and he began to question whether he could make it to the end. On day 60, the challenge tested generosity versus greed. Each contestant could write down something they wanted, and if the other agreed, both would receive their requested items. Fedra asked for an AR kit, while TJ asked for a private chef to cook 2 meals a day for a week. TJ approved Fedra's item, but she denied his, saying it was too much. This left TJ with no food or supplies, and his mental state rapidly declined. With no rations and his strength fading, TJ hit his breaking point. On day 63, he radioed in and officially quit the competition. He felt he had failed the team and couldn't bear the weight of their expectations. The men's team was brought together and told they had lost, although each member received $10,000 for participating. It was a disappointing end for the boys, who had shown so much promise early on. Fedra, still unaware of her victory, was later surprised with the news. She broke down in tears, overwhelmed that she had won the entire competition. Her strategy: eliminating weaker links early, conserving resources, and mastering mental endurance, had paid off. The women's team was declared the winner of the $500,000 grand prize, with each remaining member earning $100,000. In the end, it was not brute strength, but patience, resilience, and strategy that led to victory.